All right. Welcome to the second class of this 1 month free program. Right. So on Monday, we're able to look into what is automation, how you can get started, and a couple of other things. Today, we are going to be looking at how to use Airtable for automations. You understand? So you're going to learn how to organize, visualize, manage your data. Basically, what you're going to be learning today is Airtable, what is featuring, what is viewed, this and that. And of course, from next week, I'm going to be working with a case study. You understand? Like for example, today I was able to work, on the client's website where we're able to connect our CRM system with the customer service system, right? And of course, that was very, very successful. So you're going to be learning how some of these things work. You understand in this program. Now, today's agenda is very straightforward. We're going to be looking at Airtable basics. You need to understand tables. What are tables? How can you create tables? What are records? How you can create records? What are feeds and views, right? Visual organizations using images, views, code, color coding, and so on. Of course, how you can filter and why do companies prefer Airtable to Excel? Of course, why would company want to say, okay, come and work for us as our Airtable analyst or Airtable automation expert? Why would they say come and work for us using Airtable? Or what do they even use Airtable? You understand? So we are going to compare both of them today as well, right? And of course, as I'm sharing my screen, I'm also going to be going into our own Airtable accounts, for some practical. Of course, I'm not going to confuse you today since this first week is basically for you to familiarize yourself with these tools, right? Starting from Airtable today, right? So Airtable basics, records, tables, and views. So Airtable is a cloud-based platform. When you hear cloud-based, so what should come to your mind is basically a platform where all of your team members, you and everyone working together can collaborate irrespective of where your team members are in the world. You understand? Kind of a place where everybody can be there, everybody can work together. You understand? And that's why it's cloud. And not just that, it's also a platform based. You understand? That is, you don't necessarily need to go and install Airtable on your laptop before you can use it. So it's a cloud based, but it's also a what we call PaaS pass tool, right? A platform as a service tool. So basically, you can see this is Airtable, and of course, this is a table. So what you're looking at now, I'm going to explain it when we get it right. It's a table, right? And basically, you can see that if you were added here, for example, now. So for example, let's go to tax. So for example, under our task, you could see there are collaborators, people who are going to be working together, on different tasks. So for example, if we had somebody working on this particular task too, and the person is in, let's say, US or UK, there's not going to be any need for the person to travel down before they can work on this too. You understand? So there's that collaboration, allowed on Airtable. Of course, you can use it to, organize your data, track your projects, your tasks, your inventory are like your expenses tracker and so on, right? Then of course you can create custom views. There are different views available for you on Airtable. Calendar view, kanban view, galleries, you understand? Calendar, grid, lists, and so on. I'm going to show you all of this when we get here, right? Then, of course, you can collaborate in real time with your team. I already mentioned this. You can collaborate in real time with your team. You can automate workflows without writing any line of code, right? Of course, you can link data across different tables. I'm going to see if time will permit us to also show you that today, or if not, then we'll take that up from next week. Of course, it's all easy peasy, very simple to to go by, right? To do. In short, Airtable helps you build smart, flexible systems to manage almost anything without you needing to be a developer. Not just that, even without you having to go and hire, a developer or programmer, you understand? So this is how Airtable looks. Of course, this is from airtable.com. So you will see this picture from airtable.com. But for a more real life view of it, let me show you our own account. So this is how Airtable looks, you understand? You see the different views from here. This is grid view, right? This is gallery view. Of course, I was the one that created these different views for this particular table. Then we have the kanban view, calendar view, right, and so on. So these are different views you can use. On, of course, I'm going to see the name of your base. So on Airtable, we have what is called a base. Now this is also available on your Excel sheets or on your Google Sheets. Now when you hear database, so a base is basically that home, that house, that particular suite that houses your data. That's why it's called data. So it's from the word data plus base, database. Do you understand it? So now that particular base could actually have more than one sheet. And when you hear spreadsheets, you could have sheet 1, sheet 2. So what I'm saying in essence is when you take a look at this particular sheet, for example, you can see sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, you could open sheet 4, sheet 5, and so on. You understand? So there are different sheets still inside this KYC form database. This is for Google Sheets, you understand? So the same thing you will see here on Airtable as well, right? So you could see sheet 1, of course, we don't call this sheet, this table 1, table 2, and so on. There are different tables we had created here, you understand? And of course, basically, different tables this particular base is currently working with at the moment, you understand? You can always add new tables or even import your table from a different Airtable base. You can see, right? So it's possible for you to import from a new base. It's not V Global Content Bank. This is the name of this particular base. You can also import from a CSV file. A CSV file is a comma separated valued file. Is a different type of an Excel sheet, you understand? Then of course, you can import from Google Calendar. You can integrate, you understand? Then Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel, your CRM systems, and so on. There are more 23 resources you can integrate, to your base. You understand? So that's how Airtable helps you to manage your data. Now, moving on, what is a table? Think of tables in Airtable like individual spreadsheets or database. Now, let me go back there. So when you go back to, hold on, okay. So when you go back to our Airtable, from Airtable, you could see that this is a table. This is another table. This is another table. Looking at these tables, with just normal eyes, you could say this table is independent of this. This is independent of this. This is, of course, we know. I know that they are not independent because we have automated all of these things. In fact, this particular feed, we didn't create this. All of this just created themselves after we had already automated, you understand? So, but of course, looking at it, somebody could say, oh, this, of course, I created this normally separately. This is not part of the automation, right? So, of course, you can always have more tables to say, okay, let me create a table for ABCD. So, for example, I made this table for this particular free month class, right? So I could say, I could call this students in class, right? Students in class. Then I could call this, I could change the feed. So I don't want to jump ahead of myself. When we get to feed, I'm going to explain all of this, right? You know what feeds are and so on. Now, so I said, think of a table in Airtable like individual spreadsheets. Are you seeing it now? Or data set. Each table focusing on one specific type of data. It could be projects. So, for example, in the image you saw on our account, right? It could be content. It could be social media posts. It could be tags. It could be editors. You understand? So these are different tables. And like I said, once you've automated them, they are not going to be independent again. They are going to be dependent of one another because you would have linked one table to another. You understand? So in the image attached, Table is the area marked red. So this is a table here. This is your table, and of course these are the table names you can see here at the top here. I hope that is very, very clear. If you have any questions, please use the comment section. Like I told you on Monday, when you have questions, we are going to go through all of our comments, right? We'll give you thumbs up to comment like, oh, thank you so much, well done. Those are just feedback, right? But when we ask questions, we are going to note them down, and we are not going to have live sessions to take your questions and address them. You understand? Moving on. So let's look at records. What are records inside of Airtable? Now, the reason why I need to understand all these things is not because we want to, just stress you by explaining all the details. No, no, no. By the time you start your interfacing or your automations, you see the need for linking of records. You understand? It's going to ask you, do you want to link a record? And imagine you don't know what a record is. Now, a record is a single row in a table. That's a record. That means you can have more than one record. For example, on the image you are seeing now, we have record for the one, record for the two, type of content. This is second type of content. Of course, all of this content type are from they are from our website, right? So they are from our website. Basically, content our social media manager needs to post. You understand? So we just put them here. They automated them with type of content and of course stage of completion of such content. So a record is basically the details on each line, like this, on each row in your Excel. You call this row, right? These are records. Now, in the image attached, the area marked red is a record. That is a single record marked. So I'm saying that this red part, that is a single record I just marked there. If I had marked two, I'll say these are two records. I hope you understand. This is a record. Now, if I say, let's say I give you an assignment and say, oh, create a data populate your database with 10 records of employees' data. I hope you know what that means now, right? Now, moving on to feeds. On Airtable, you need to understand what feeds are and how to play around with them. So feeds are the vertical columns in a table. On your Excel, you call these columns, right? So they are the vertical rows. Like, for example, this title, VA Global Content, that is a feed. Table of content, that is a feed. Of course, let's go inside our Airtable so I can show you this, clearer. Now, let's use social media. Let's use content, for example, right? Let's use content, for example. Let's use grid view so I can use grid view for you. So here you could see that this is a feed, right? So you say this is the table's primary feed. The name is meant to be a short, unique representation of each record in your table. So this is the name of this particular feed, and that's the feed. Of course, this is another feed. So look at it. I can shrink this, right? So this is another feed, right? And of course, this is another feed. This is another feed. This feed is for stage of completion, stage of the content, right? And this is type of content. You can always edit, you can change the name. You understand? You can also change what type of feed. So there are different type of feed, right? We have the button feed, barcode, file attachments, duration, currency, phone number feed, user feed, single select, multiple select, checkbox, and so on. You understand? Based on what you are trying to achieve. So these are different feeds you have. Of course, if you need any new feed that is not here, you can always, insert either left or right. You can always bring new feed. You understand? Either left or right, you can always bring new feed to your data. You understand? So that's how so you can see that this is empty now. So you can type all of this new record inside all of this feed. You understand? So that's your new feed. Of course, this is a feed, this is a feed, and all of these are feed. You understand? So that's how to identify feed inside your Airtable. Please, I hope it's very, very clear. So you can define let me expand. So you can define the types to maintain consistency. You understand? So it's always very important for you to actually always recognize your feed so that you don't forget when you use the table. What did I name this particular column? Oh, then you now go back to your table and check again. You need to always have unique names for all of these things so I can always remember. right? And of course, in this image, the red circled parts are the feed. Now, I'm going to go back to slides again. Tables, I've explained this, right? Hope it's very, very clear. Then I've explained records, and now I've explained feed. Now, to the next one, views. So what are views? Views are basically different ways you can visualize your data. By visualize, I mean how you can view, how you can see them, look them. You understand? Different ways. You can decide to view your data in grid view, in calendar view, gallery view, kanban list view, and so on. You understand? So let me quickly show you that again in our Airtable as practical. So when you come here, you click on grid view, you can always save, right? Of course, I've created new ones here. So this is grid view, and this is gallery view example that I made, right? This is kanban view, this is calendar view. You understand? So of course, if anything, you can always delete, rename, or play around with your view. So for example, I want to call this calendar view for 1 month free class. You understand? So that's basically how to do it. You can always create new views based on what you need. You don't create views for fun. You understand? It's not just about, oh, I need to create. No, no, no. You create them based on your need, based on what you want to see. So, for example, if my focus is to see more of images and less of content, you understand, in what I want to achieve, I can easily use a gallery view to see the images, you understand, more clearer, you understand. So that's how you use your different views, right? Now, moving on, visual organization in Airtable database. So in this topic, I'm going to be teaching you how you can understand different visual organizations inside your Airtable and how you can actually make your data beautiful and well organized. Now, Airtable goes beyond spreadsheets, databasing, you understand, by offering visual ways to organize your data. This is something you might not see on other databases. So for example, your gallery view, your attachment in feed, you can see how interesting it is for us to have a gallery view inside database, to see images, to attach logos, you understand, directly in your table, directly inside the table. So for example, you could see, even from your grid view, right, you could see directly we have images here, you understand, which you can always change, can always import new files, you can always browse and so on. Of course, this is not something you see in most other databases, but Airtable allows us to do this beautifully, right? Now, not just that, there's room for you to group, you understand? So for example, if you come to grouping, you could group based on, oh, I want to group based on type of content. And it's going to automatically group, you can see, right? Beautiful, beautiful visuals. It's just automatically, design your table for you based on that grouping you have made. So it groups that particular feed for you. You see the grouping, right? Articles separately, videos separately, podcasts, infographics, separately. And of course, it's not still removing our stage of content. You can see, oh, this particular topic, have you spent blah blah blah, is complete. Does it feel like everyone is getting hired while you are left behind? Complete. You understand? So everything is well organized. And of course, color too. So of course, this is a free version, right? So let's say you are using the free version. You can also color the data. Coloring, in fact, without even using the upgraded version of Airtable, is automatically being colored for you. So you understand, you can see different beauties and aesthetics on your data. You understand? Now, this was one of the automations I made today, right? You can see as messages are coming from the website, they are automatically getting, landing inside the app. Now, moving on, of course, grouping, color coding, emojis, and so on. These are different ways you can, visually organize your data inside of Airtable. So you can see gallery view. perfect for displaying records with images. You can see how beautiful it is. You understand? The image attached is an example of gallery view inside our own content bank base. So this is VA Global content bank base, and you can see our gallery view inside our Airtable. Now, of course, I've shown you attachment in feed, so it's perfect for displaying records with images, such as product photos, project screenshots, or fabric swatches. Of course, your logos, bring in let's say you are selling bag and you have different type of bags, you can bring in the different pictures. Or for example, a social media manager who wants to post different content across different socials can bring in the designs they want here. Understand? So this is an example, and you can see you can easily attach files on like several other databases, right? Now, the last thing I'm going to show you in today's class is data filtering in Airtable database. So yeah, I'm going to be showing you how to filter your data, basically, right? Now, let's go into our Airtable to show you this. You might not understand the explanation, so let's go to the practical and show you. Now, when you are here, let's go back to our view, right? Now, I just deleted the grouping. Now, when you are here, you see some of these things under your table. The first is views, which you can collapse or you can view. You can see, you can collapse, you can view. Then you have the current view that you are on. This is showing you that we are currently on a grid view, right? Now, this is how you can hide your feeds in case you have any feed you want to hide here. These are all the feeds we have created currently, right? And you can always hide. Now, you will not see filtering. So filtering basically arranges your data based on certain conditions. You understand? Certain triggers, conditions you have given it. For example, if you say, oh, wherever somebody or a type of content, or wherever, for example, a type of content is or maybe is not, you understand? So these are operations or operators that allows the condition to be fulfilled. You understand? That is, this sets the ground for which your operation will be carried out. That's why it's called operator. You understand? And I need you to understand this, because by the time we go into automations, okay, this is currently on. So by the time we go into our automation, let me off it. I can start all over again. By the time we go into our automations next week, right? It will be easier for you to understand certain conditions. Now, that's why I'm explaining what conditions are. You understand? So see conditions as certain let's say pillars that you have to climb, that you have to fulfill for something to be done. So let me give you another example in a condition. If Buhari becomes Nigeria president again, then VA Global will stop being a Nigerian brand. No, that's the condition there. What's the condition? If something happens, if Buhari becomes president, then something will happen. You understand? So basically, what conditions are there are operators on which all of your automations, all of your triggers are built. Do you understand? So let's see another example, right? So for example, you could say, I could delete this, right? I could delete this. I could add a different condition. You understand? So you can always add conditions by yourself. You can delete all of these things, so you can start from scratch. You understand? So once you click on filter, add a condition. So if once you hear where in this view, show content where, are you seeing it now? A type of content is, or maybe contains, or maybe is not empty, or is empty, is none of, or is any of. You understand? So if it is, then you choose the exact option for this condition. So in this view, show content where this type of content. Don't forget, we have a particular column here for type of content. Look at it. You understand? So what we are trying to say is that for this condition, in this view, show content where this any type of content is what a video or is an article or is a podcast. Basically, this filter allows you to bring out only what you want to see. Like, let's say you have a mixture of black egg and white egg. I don't know if there are black eggs anyway. Let's say you have black eggs and white eggs, and you want to say, I don't eat black eggs. So what do? You filter. So you are going to now create a condition to filter that egg. You not just sit down and start picking black eggs. You you waste time because you're talking about automations here. Now to say, oh, okay, places where my hand touches black, put it in a separate basket. So automatically, even with your eyes closed, as you are picking the eggs, if your hand touches black egg, it puts such egg in a separate basket. And by the time you have done separating everything, you're going to have only the basket you need, which is the white basket, and which are the white eggs. I hope you understand conditions now. And this is filtering. This is how filter works. And of course, when we leave this now, it's automatically filtered, right? You can see that that condition, which is a type of content, contains video, is going to show us this. That's why you have just this. I hope you understand. So let's do a different condition. So if you say a stage of content, right, is maybe is not or is any of all of this works. You understand? Any of the operator you use will work for you based on what you want to see. So if is, let's say, complete, then it's going to give you stage of content that are complete. You can see that you don't have incomplete here again. Everything you have here are just complete because you have filtered your data. Now, filtering is not just for Airtable. I believe some of you already know this. You can also filter your data even on, Excel and Google Sheets. It allows you to filter. Just that this is really, really beautiful. And of course, by the time you go into, more complex automations next week, this understanding of conditions will help you to know how can you connect, all of these steps together. For example, today you can see that step was done 4 hours ago and it was successful. So this was what I did earlier this morning. You understand? And of course, I'm going to show you how to do all of these complex automations from our next video based on the curriculum you have with you anyways, right? That's what will determine what we have next. So I hope picturing is very, very clear now, guys. Hope it's very, very clear, right? So moving on, you can see, right? So basically add your filters, add the filter button, choose your condition. So basically this will be choose the condition. You understand? Choose the condition. So once you have chosen your condition, then of course you can always rearrange your filters and so on. I hope this is very, very clear. So if you have questions, this is time for you to ask. I believe this video has done justice to data filtering, attachment in feed on your data inside your Airtable, right? Gallery view, data visualization inside your Airtable, views, different type of views, feed, records, tables, and of course the meaning and how Airtable works. So that's basically the our agenda for today. And the last thing is see, and I named that table Excel versus Airtable. You understand? Of course. So basically, what I did was to say I put all of this data on a spreadsheet and imported it. But of course, you can also manually input your data here. So let's look at the comparison between Airtable and Excel based on their features. The first feature we compare is database structure. Database structure. How is Excel better than Airtable, or how is Airtable better than Excel based on database structure? Excel is limited, while Airtable has built-in table relationships, like I've shown you, right? They can interact. Although when you look at them like this, you would think all of these are just standalone items. You understand? Of course, until consider that I've linked this now to stage of completion, release date. This was what I did today. So I've automated all of these things. So if I drag any of this down, you understand, a task could be created for me. It may be a task 3 or a task 4 based on what I want it to do. You understand? So basically, you can see that this is task 3. This was not manually created. You understand? This is from automation. So if I say, okay, I don't want this, I want to take away this, it can also see, remove some of your conditions you have put here. Basically, there's relationship going on across different tables. You understand? In fact, let me quickly show you something, right? If you go to your content, right? I know this will run the condition we already have, but we are going to do it again. So if you have something like this, and you and you click on the name of the feed, you can link. Are you seeing it now? So you can link it to what you want to link into. Maybe link to, you can find the feed you want to link this to. You can see now. So Airtable allows linkages between different sheets. You understand? So this particular tags has been linked to this table. You understand? So this tags has been linked to this. It has been linked to this, and that's why all of our tags are coming here automatically, because we have linked it. So by the time I start showing you the automations, how to build your conditions, your triggers, you understand this more and more. You understand? Now, aside that, Excel has limited, in fact, it's not even ID to upload your images on Excel. You understand? It's not ID, but Airtable allows easy uploads and previews, as you have seen here, right? Look at it again. So as you have seen, you can see images here, and if you use your gallery view, you see all of these images beautifully shown to you, right? Collaboration on Excel, you have to sync, right? Syncing, it requires syncing, but here, as long as you have access, it's real-time online access. You understand? It's seamless. Then, of course, for Excel, it's static. Why this? You have, of course, you have seen different views already today. Then, of course, automation is limited on Excel. Why here you can, integrate, automate, and so on. Then, of course, ease of use. If you are looking for mathematics and analytics, Excel could be your guy, right? But if you are looking for workflows, automations, of course, it's obvious. Airtable is your guy. Now, this should be the end of the video, but I'm going to just give you a bonus for today, right? I'm just going to give you a bonus for today. So when you come here and you click on create automation, so I'm clicking on the automation entirely. When you click on automation, what you see here is add a trigger. There are different triggers Airtable has already done as template for you. For example, you could trigger your conditions based on when a record matches conditions, or when a form is submitted, or when a record is, I know what you know what your record is now, right? When a record is created, or when a record is updated, or at certain schedule time, do something, or when a record enters a view, right? And of course, there are more. You can see there are more. In fact, it can also, trigger your automation based on connection with other tools. So you can automate your Airtable with Google Calendar, automate with Google Forms, automate with Google Sheets when a row is created, automate with Outlook email when email is received, automate with Outlook calendar for both when event is created and when any event changes. You understand? So this is the basics of your automation on Airtable. You understand? So when you come here and click on add a trigger, so basically let's just play around with this for now. So by next week, I'm going to use a real case study which I will share with you beforehand, so that you can also copy the base and practice along in class from our next class on Airtable. Now, for example, so let's just say when a record matches certain conditions. This is, for example, right? Now, the first thing you need to do is choose one of your tables you have in your data. So don't forget, this is a table, this is a table, this is a table. Then let me remove the filter we have on this. Okay, so this is a table, this is a table, this is a table, this is a table, and so on, right? We have different tables. Now, the automation is asking you to select a table based on what you want to achieve. That is what you will make you show table here. And based on the communication you want to achieve, which table do you want to interact with? Do you want, let me explain something to you. Do you want your social media manager to be able to say, okay, for every time there's a content, automatically change, and I've posted it, automatically change the stage of completion, or always, automatically update the tags? There could be different things you want to do. You understand? So for example, I could say, okay, let me delete these tags, delete table. Don't worry, I will do everything by myself again. So I could say, come here and start from scratch, create a tags table, right? I'll call this tax table, you understand? So this is my tax table. I could move it around, right? So this is my tax table. Then what I need here is basically tags. I don't need attachments. I'm going to take this off. I don't need status. I'm going to take this off. I don't need assigning, right? Of course, I could need collaboration, you understand? But since I'm explaining from scratch with you, for you, let me delete it as well. Now, we have these tags, you understand? We have these tags already. And basically, what you want to do is you want these tags to interact with this table, different table. In fact, you can see how far they are to themselves, but you want these tags to interact with this content. And that you can do with your automation. You understand? You can do that with your automation. So what you need to do is go back to your data. Of course, I already created this. Let me delete it. So what you need to do is create a feed here, right? And call that feed tags. Do you understand? So once you have called that feed tags, what you now need to do is go back to your automation and of course bring that particular table in content and then create your condition. So for example, you could say when a particular content, let's say type of content or a particular stage of the content, when a particular content is what? Maybe let's say it's a video or it's a podcast. You understand? Let's say it's a video, for example. What should happen when this particular type of content is a video? Then what should happen? You add a condition, you understand? And or you understand? So you can say or blah blah blah, or you can say and then what else? Maybe you could say and maybe we have stage of content is maybe you are still planning, right? Is planning. You understand? So as you are choosing your conditions, automatically this is updating. So look at it here. This is our trigger now. When a record matches a particular condition, right? If the type of content is a video and the stage of the content is planning, that's basically it. You understand? And of course, you can say choose record. So it's going to load. Hold on. So it's going to load that for us, right? And of course, you can say from there, you can just say, okay, cancel this and say add advanced logic. You understand? Then you need to create a record. So once you have your record here, create the record. So basically, right, this is just to class will go deeper, practical, you understand? So basically, creating our record is very, very simple as well. Don't forget, we already have our conditions here. This is a condition. I need to take this off. So this is our condition. If the type of content is a video and the stage of the content is planning, then what should happen? Then you have to now say, create a table, which is your record. It could be tags, you understand? Then what should happen? You just keep explaining to Airtable what you want to have, what should happen at each stage of your automation. So all you have in mind is when a type of content is video and the stage of the content is planning, update the tags table. You understand? Update the tags table. So for example, you could say on your Airtable, you want a content to be updated, or your Airtable, you want a tags to be updated. You understand? Basically, this is a typical automation. This is a typical automation. So by the time we start this proper, I'm going to run all of this. I don't want this to affect our content back. So I'm going to run all of this with you, do it with you from scratch, and use different case studies for you. But of course, today, our agenda is simple and achieve that. So let me run you through everything. Table basic fit, filtering like a pro, applying simple and complex conditions, and of course, Airtable versus Excel. If you have questions, please feel free to drop your questions in the comment section. This session has been really impactful, I believe, right? We'll see again in our next video. That will be next week, right? We'll see again in our next video next week. All right, thank you.